really exciting progress, really high potential. And for us, the clean revolution, industrial revolution is obviously incredibly compelling. But the question I have for you is, we see this pipeline of projects, but how many projects do we really need to ensure this in clean industrial revolution? What's your projection?
So we do have a view on this. We try to keep the numbers slightly simple and intuitive. So if you look at like something called tipping points theory, it basically says that you need about 5 to 10% of volume within a sector to become clean in order for that to start sort of a snowball effect, because you'll be bringing costs down, and also once people lead, others will follow. There's all these like self-reinforcing mechanisms, and we've calculated that by 2030 we would need to see roughly 800 FIDs, and then those projects would come online. And this is across all the sectors, and then those projects obviously would come online in the years following that. So we're kind of seeing a year-on-year ramp up, is our hope and projection.
And where we want to help you all also in that effort. So the other observation here is the bottlenecks that you highlighted. What's the best pathway to really address these bottlenecks that really threaten to slow our momentum?
Obviously, the bottlenecks are quite diverse. I think the critical one, and we actually hear this from all the developers we work with, is that demand uncertainty. So basically, because off-takers, for example, imagine you're an airline or a shipping company or a car manufacturer that buys steel. Premiums are still quite high today. Policy seems to be going in all different directions. People find it quite difficult to predict what's going to happen. And these off-takers are really worried that if they lock in now for like long-term volumes, they might be locked in at high prices. Prices might come down later because of a learning curve. What if policy gets reversed and they don't actually need these volumes? So it's actually a really difficult situation for some of these off-takers, and they've found ways around it for now. They sometimes work together, form like buyer coalitions, and each take like small bits of volume. The other thing to think about is that sometimes the product itself is a lot more expensive, but when you take it down to the end product, that impact actually gets really diluted. So for example, clean steel, like the premiums can be really high, like up to 100%, depending on the region and the technology. But when you translate that into a new car that uses clean steel, actually it's usually more like 1% or even less, like 0.5%. So that's basically something that we've dug into a bit, and we believe that actually putting in place mandates for clean, for needing to use basically these clean products, for example, saying, okay, cars need to use at least 5% green steel or something like that, that's a way to provide a lot more forward-looking clarity and a much more predictable investment environment. And we have actually seen, for example, in aviation, where these mandates have already to some extent happened. For example, in Europe, you've really seen like a surge of projects happening. So that's the biggest one. But then obviously there are some other practical ones that I mentioned before, and we do work closely with governments, for example, on some of those practical points as well.
Yeah, no, those are good insights. Yeah, the buyers alliances are also, I'm seeing kind of a new emergence of those. It seems to be picking up some steam. I'm going to ask the question that's the perhaps maybe on top of mind for the folks on this webinar, which is China. They are moving so quickly. I mean, you emphasized just how incredibly impressive the amount of investment. Isn't it likely that they're just going to take over these industries much in the same way that they've done with solar? What's your take?
Well, if other regions don't get their act together, then yes. I think China has really like obviously is seeing this as a really big strategic opportunity. They have the capacity. They basically are a very directional country, right? Who can provide a lot of clarity once they set their mind to something.
Mhm.
And you can really see, first of all, like companies there tend to have big balance sheets, so they can circumvent some of the financing challenges that maybe potentially companies in other regions sometimes face. But also, you just see like when there's clear direction from the government, things do move fast. I definitely think that there's pros and cons, right? Like the pro is China's working really hard on this and already starting to drive down costs in some instances, which the rest of the world could benefit from. But obviously, if it's only China that forges ahead with this, the rest of the world could find themselves quite dependent. And there is definitely a world where in a decade, if other geographies don't invest, China might be able to produce green products for a lower cost than other countries' grey products, right? And then you'd be at a really competitive disadvantage. But we do see other regions are waking up to this, and are seeing the benefits of innovating and moving. So hopefully we'll see a more balanced playing field as well. But it is actually also quite inspiring to see what China's doing in this field.